Very socially responsible of you to have your mask on.
Mike Kaywood's here, so I got to keep it on.
6 feet from you, Mus.
All right, we got Kaywood out of here.
All right. Well, I'm going to put everybody on mute, and then I'll get us going. All right. Appreciate everybody. Kind of short notice today. Obviously, we've got a little bit of big news to talk about. We're going to go straight to questions. Same thing today with Mus as with Sam yesterday. Any updates on any of our COVID-related numbers or any of that information will come from Hunter when we have it available. So let's not waste time asking Mus on that today. We'll do the same thing, 2 questions. We'll try to get around to everybody as we can, and if we've got time to go back through, we will we'll get back through. All right. Well, Bob, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, I think I unmuted properly. Can you guys hear me?
Good. Yep.
Okay. Eric, I think I remember before the LSU game last season, you talked about you and David Patrick had met out in California, and I guess you worked together at LSU. Could you talk a little bit about your all's friendship and how that played into this?
Yeah, so Coach Patrick and I, got to really know each other when he was an assistant coach at St. Mary's, and we loved sitting around talking basketball. He's a guy that's just a basketball junkie. Very good on the practice floor. When I got to watch him at St. Mary's, obviously he's known as an incredible recruiter, but he's really, really good on the floor. He's a guy that loves individual player development. He's just as well-rounded a coach as I've been around, from the recruiting aspect to the X and O's, game preps, practice, and individual skill development. And then when he was at LSU and Coach Jones was looking for another coach, it was my connection to Coach Patrick that introduced, Coach Jones and I to each other. And we got to spend a year, at LSU together, and couldn't be more excited to have him join us. He's obviously got recruiting ties, having worked in the SEC and also being at TCU. Just not many coaches that have head coaching experience at the Division I level, have recruited and proven recruiter at the Division I level in our own league, and then also someone that has NBA experience as well, having worked for the Houston Rockets.
And then I know obviously Arkansas has a lot more resources and money than UC Riverside, but he was a head coach. Did he reach out to you first and say, hey, I'd like to get back in the SEC and work with you? Or did you call him, or how did that work? And when you got to know him at St. Mary's, was that when you were between coaching jobs, or what were you doing then?
Yeah, it was after my short Sacramento Kings stint, where I was doing media stuff, and I would take my 2 sons to rebound for them and work them out up at St. Mary's, after their practices, and so it was between jobs where I had plenty of time to observe and watch. And what was the second part of the question, Bob?
Well, David's a head coach, and obviously Riverside doesn't have Arkansas's, resources or money, but he was a head coach. Was it hard to convince him to go back to an assistant's job? Did he reach out to you first and say, I'd like to work with you, or did you reach out to him and say, hey, let's work together again? Or how'd that go down?
Yeah, I mean, he was the first name that, when we had an opening, he was the first guy that I thought would really be good and fit in with our current entire staff and knows me. And I loved his background of being a player at a high level, obviously his connections to Australia. I've seen him work as a recruiter, and so yeah, he was the first guy. But he had a really good year this year at Riverside. He's been there for 2 years now, and he was building it on the upward swing. And you look at some of the games and the wins that they had this year, like at Nebraska. He was building something that was probably, going in the direction of being something really special in the Big West. However, having said that, we do have mutual friends in Johnny Jones and and Brendan Surr. And I asked both of those guys to talk to Coach Patrick, because I had worked with Brendan Surr with the Orlando Magic, and Brendan had come to LSU once I had taken the Nevada job. And obviously we both worked with Coach Jones, and then Coach Jones was with me at Nevada. So a lot of interconnecting pieces that I talked to and asked if they could also talk to Coach Patrick. And so a lot of back and forth, a lot of, talking about vision and what we thought we could do together, and so on and so forth. So it wasn't just one phone call. I mean, there was a lot of back and forth. And it was hard for Coach Patrick to leave a head coaching job. I can tell you that wasn't an easy decision for him.
But you reached out to him first.
Yes.
Okay. I got some more questions, but I know Kyle, I'll respect the 2-question thing, and hopefully you can roll back to me.
We'll come back, Bob. I promise.
Okay.
Hutch.
Yeah, I guess I was going to ask about Isaiah Joe, if you had any update on Isaiah and the timeline. I guess now there's a deadline with August 3rd. Do you think it could last to that?
Yeah, Hutch, I don't really know what Isaiah and the Joe family, what their timeline will be. I think that, a lot of guys have been doing Zoom interviews. Those are going to start tapering down, and they've already started tapering down in the last week, and it'll continue to go in a slower pattern. And then well past August, I'm sure those interviews will start ramping back up. But just as I've stated in the past, Hutch, I mean, we're just here to support Isaiah, here to support facilitating any of these Zoom interviews that we possibly can. And I've said it. I mean, we've got 2 different depth charts and 2 different game plans. And until we find out one way or the other, we'll just keep proceeding, one team with him and one team without him.
And then with the coaching search, was this the only candidate you pursued, or did you kind of go vet your options? And how many coaches did you talk to for this position before settling on Coach Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people that had reached out, but a lot more than maybe what I had anticipated. The phone over the last 30 days or whatever has been really busy. I've, as always, I try to get back to everybody that reaches out, and have legitimate conversations. And, there was a lot of really qualified people and a lot of people that I've worked with in the past that I think are great coaches. And, David Patrick, when I really considered and thought about everything and talked it over with Hunter, I think this really made the most sense for our program.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Hutch.
Tara?
Hey, Coach. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Justin Smith. I don't think we've had a chance to talk with you about him.
Yes, Tara, Justin will be here this weekend, and we can't wait for him to come and join the voluntary weight sessions that we've had, and he's really excited, and he's a really key piece for us. I mean, he's a guy that at his size can play a bunch of different positions. His natural positions probably as a small forward. If you want to play really big, he could play the off guard. If you want to play small ball, he could play the 4 spot. And you're talking about a player that led a Big Ten program in minutes, which kind of tells you the value that Indiana had in playing in the most minutes on what was a tournament team. And he's a proven player in arguably one of the best conferences in college basketball. So, and he's high character guy, high basketball IQ. And like I said, we're really looking forward to having Justin get here. And we talk to him almost every day. Not just me, several coaches on staff talk to him, you know, we're really excited to have him join us.
And all the freshmen are on campus now. I saw you helped some of them move in and stuff. How good is it to have them on the Hill?
It's really good. I mean, obviously, you know, when you you know, recruit, you know, those guys as hard as we did, all 4 of them, and then you just kind of wait to try to get them on campus. And you know, the football staff was moving in their freshmen, and we were moving in ours. And I think my guys packed a little bit lighter than Coach Pittman's group. But I think it's, you know, it's really a neat time for, you know, those players the first week on campus. And it's obviously an adjustment, you know, that first month for guys to be away from their family. But, you know, it was special time for them. And we got to spend good time with their moms and dads as they were there. And I think this, you know, because these 4 guys know each other, it's really cool to see them, you know, move in together, and they're all in the same room. And so it's awesome.
All right, Coach, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tara.
Ty?
Yeah, Coach, did you get a chance to watch Eddie on Monday night?
Yes, not only did I watch Eddie, but Mariah watched Eddie, Michael Muss watched, and so did Danielle. So we as a family watched it. I thought, I mean, what Coach Sutton did it's insane. Like the wins, and, you know, every place he went, he won. And obviously as a family, we were, you know, and I had to rewind it a couple times watching what he did here at Arkansas. Just the environment and the crowd and the enthusiasm. And I thought it was awesome. I mean, any fan of Arkansas basketball, you know, that's like a must-see watch as far as I'm concerned.
And I know you use a lot of like new technology in recruiting, and as far as your virtual tours and stuff. Coach, do you ever talk to players about like just the history? Because a lot of times, like these kids, they don't know even about Nolan Richardson. But do you ever bring back the history of Arkansas basketball, like Eddie Sutton and what happened in the 90s?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to talk about our history. But I also, you know, yes, we do, but we don't go overboard with it. Just because it has been, you know, there's been a time gap, you know, and so, yeah, we talk about what's been done here in the past. We talk about all the great coaches that have been here. We talk about all the great players and the former NBA players, and the stuff's all over the walls in the practice site. So, yeah, we do talk about it because I think it's an important part. You know, now we want to try to, you know, become relevant in this time as well.
Tom?
Hey, Muss.
What's up, Tom?
Hey, a question about the competition you expect to see out of this roster, like putting all the pieces together. So many new guys. What's that challenge going to look like when you really start hitting it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have more. I thought we had really good intensity during practices this year, but I mean, I think we'll, you know, probably have, you know, more intensity in practices. We'll be able to, you know, like, quite frankly, once we hit, you know, really December and January, you know, we stopped really competing. You know, it was really important that we kept guys fresh mentally and physically because of a lack of depth. I think that, you know, we'll be able to do a little bit more competitive stuff, a little bit more 5-on-5, maybe not as many breakdown stations. But it's going to be really important whenever we do get back together on the floor that we try to figure out what pieces fit, you know, because we've lost a lot of time with so many new players. And so we have a lot of work whenever we do get back to try to figure out strengths and weaknesses and who's our go-to guy and where are those sets coming from, where are the shots coming from. I mean, when we needed a basket last year, like we ran a play called Boston Keep and got Mason going downhill to his left hand. And we didn't know that particular play was going to be a go-to play. And we had no idea that Mason going to his left hand off a dribble handoff where he had a head of steam to turn the corner was going to be a go-to play. It took us about 15 to 17 games to figure that out. So we're going to really have a lot of challenging decisions to make once we do get back on the floor.
Okay. That was called Boston Keep, Keep.
Boston Keep. Yep. We'll send you the diagram if you need it, Tom.
And also, how close are you to wrapping up the schedule? Could that be on the brink of being released as well?
Yeah, I've been trying to find an assistant coach, and Coach Ruta's been trying to finish the schedule. And, I'm not sure when Ruta and Mike Kaywood will get together, but it's not finalized yet. Hopefully, here in the near future, we'll have a, schedule that'll be able to be released.
That's all I got. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Trey Biddy.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? I was wondering if you could go into just a little bit more about Justin and like what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think
if you have any comparison, also, I don't know if you like to do those or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think look, he's an incredible athlete. When you watched him play last year, he could guard so many different people. He can guard perimeter guys because he can move his feet. He's got really good anticipation. I kind of look at him like he's a little bit like Adrio in some degrees, but also a little bit like Jimmy Witt. So you could be saying, what are you talking about? That's your point guard from last year and your starting 5-man. But he's right. That's the versatility that he has. I mean, Jimmy guarded a lot of when whoever we played, he would guard the best player for the most part, unless it was a center. So I think that Justin's going to take on a role defensively where he's going to have to take on a big challenge every single night that we play. And then offensively, he's an incredible finisher in transition. He's a guy that can get out and run the wing. And then I think there's some hidden areas of his game, ball handling, three-point shooting. We want to give him, flexibility to be able to showcase some of those perimeter skills. And again, we just want to get him here and start working with him as soon as we possibly can.
Some the players who were returning, just a few players who were returning, you saw those guys in March, but the freshmen like Moses and KK, Devo, Jalen, how long has it been since you've seen those guys face to face? What was that reunion like? And what was also, did you notice anything different about maybe guys carrying a little bit more weight, maybe somebody looks more slender or anything like that?
Yeah, I got to get on Devo's ab routine.
Yeah.
Whatever he's doing with his abs, I'm not doing, and would like to get that workout that he's been doing for several months. But they all look great, to be honest with you, and I think they're all in good shape. Especially considering what the times have been like, and guys have not really been able to do stuff like play, pick up ball and be in gyms for a long extended period of time. So, but it was great to see those guys. It's great to see all of our players, because we have been away. And so there's a little bit of disconnect. It's the Zoom stuff is great, but there's nothing like personal interaction.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Trey.
John.
What's up, Coach? Just a random question for you. I saw you retweeted this about how the NBA is actually allowing coaches and players to wear polo shirts on the bench during games. So I have to ask, one, are you going to take credit for that? And two, what is it like to be a trendsetter in the world of fashion in the game of basketball?
John, that's probably the best question of the day. It's just brilliant that Adam Silver came out with that press that they're allowed to wear polos. I think it's, in all honesty, once you do it, they're probably not going to want to go back to suits. So, I'm not going to name the two NBA head coaches that asked me about it, but I did get 2 text messages from NBA head coaches and asked what it was like. And I think they're really going to like it. I think the fans are going to like it too when they watch it on TV. It's a good look. We're going to find out who's in good shape too. Sometimes those suits and ties can hide a lot. You can't really hide in a polo. So the guys that are out of condition, those NBA coaches that are in poor physical condition, it'll show up. And those guys that are really in incredible physical condition, it's going to show up as well.
Yeah, sounds like I need to start wearing suits more. Thanks, Coach. That's all I got.
Thanks, John.
Go ahead, Russell.
Coach, with the way the roster is setting up, how important is Desi's leadership role this year?
Yeah, I think Russell, I mean, he's going to have to, like we need a player-led voice who knows what's going on. In some of our, things that we really emphasize, whether it's hands in the eyeball, whether it's, defensively bottom of the eye, whether it's drop and sink on dribble penetrations, we need another voice out there to try to help buddy coach. And Desi's the guy that understands our schemes. So I think it's going to be really, really important. And then guys like Connor, I mean, even though they didn't play this past year, I think that he has, guys like Connor have great understanding of what we're trying to do. But with so many new faces, I think, with any freshman, let alone when you have 4, there's a difference in scheme and terminology. And so we're going to need people to try to help all of our new guys. Jalen Tate's got incredibly high basketball IQ, but he doesn't understand our system quite yet. So we're going to need guys like Desi to kind of pull the rest of the group in the right direction.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Russell.
Kevin?
Hey, Muss. 10 of the players on the roster in just over a year, these are your guys. So you've turned over the roster. You've talked about that you've got sort of a rotation worked out with or without Isaiah. But with Isaiah, how does this roster stack up compared to your teams at Nevada, your team last year at Arkansas, and also looking around the SEC after being in the league for a year? How do you think your roster stacks up against the league teams?
Yeah, as far as the league goes, Kevin, I think there's just so much unknown, still. So, I mean, we do have a depth charts of every team and returning scores and returning points. And then you try to figure out incoming players, whether they were sit-out guys that your opponent has or whether they were grad transfers or freshman incoming classes. We've tried to kind of take these moving parts and see where we might stack up. But I think it's still a little early until after that August date of trying to figure out where the competition is. But even having said that, I still think that it's really early to try to determine, because the preseason stuff, we all know that there's, roles change and once you get to conference play, but, how are our teams different? I mean, obviously I think the first thing is depth. And then I think the second thing is just our overall size. I mean, when you stand next to Jalen Tate, not just myself, but the other guys on staff all feel like, he probably taller than Adrio. So, one of our point guards probably is taller than last year's, starting center. So that kind of shows you just the size difference and the length that we have. And obviously, adding Connor at 7'3", and we're a much deeper team and a much taller team. And I don't think we've lost anything athletically, and up front we have, much bigger bodies.
Okay, last question here. You and Coach Patrick were at LSU together. Obviously he had a big hand in Ben Simmons being at LSU. What just being with him at that time, and I know you've talked a lot with him since, what did you learn about him as a recruiter and as a bench coach and different things from, experiencing that, being on the same staff with him?
Yeah, I think number one, like as a recruiter, you know, the one word that pops up is just likability. Like my phone, since the announcement, you know, like he's so well respected in the coaching fraternity because he's so easy to get along with. And throughout this process, people, you know, in our program and in our athletic department that talk to him, like he's a likable guy. He's got an incredible personality. He's got great experience, and he has really, really incredible recruiting connections. He knows all the AAU people. Like the Australian pipeline is well documented. And then I think from an X and O standpoint, you know, I knew working with him what his game preps were like. He's innovative. He's always trying to learn. He's an underrated coach, and I think what happened is when he went to Riverside, people saw how good he was from an X and O standpoint and a game plan standpoint. So I just think he's a really, really well-rounded coach in all aspects of the game.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Kevin.
Scotty?
Yeah, Coach, have you gotten any feedback or reports on, you know, how guys are you know, doing with the voluntary workouts to this point?
No, I mean, what we've really been doing is just focusing on Zoom calls and recruiting and you know, like this is their time to just, you know, get in that weight room and get in the sand pit and be around Coach Dave Richardson. And I mean, our interaction up till now, I mean, move-in day, you know, was great because we got to be around him. And other than that, Scotty, we just have not really had much contact with him at all. I mean, you know, I'm not in the weight room with him. I don't observe it. It's you know, I'm kind of in my office doing Zoom calls, but we do look forward, you know, to being around him much more, you know, here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, this might be a little off the wall. I mean, I'm just curious what Hayes Myers has brought to your staff. I understand you guys' relationship goes back to, I think, when he was a student manager at LSU.
Yeah, no, Hayes is, you know, I mean, he does a lot of projects that people wouldn't know. I mean, you know, we're doing a summer book right now of goals for our players, and he's taken the lead on that. And, you know, he and I go through a lot of the presentations that we do on Zoom. And, you know, I mean, Hayes does just a lot. I mean, he and Clay Mosier kind of head up our little analytics that we do with guys. And he wears a lot of different hats. And I really trust him a lot. I trust his basketball, you know, acumen when I need to, you know, bounce an idea off somebody or want to talk about pick and roll coverage. I'll go talk to Hayes and throw things by. And he's a guy that loves to study film. And those guys that are like filmaholics, they bring so much to the table, you know, like when you study the game. And then he's always thirsty to learn from other people. I mean, I'll walk by his office and he'll be on some Zoom call with other coaches, whether it be other NBA video coordinators, or it could be other college coaches. He's just a guy that constantly trying to learn from other people.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Scotty.
Trey Schapp.
Yeah, Coach, obviously Tom asked about the schedule a little earlier. I'm going to go a little deeper into that. Any teams from the state, inside the state of Arkansas, will you play in the non-conference?
I mean, right now, Trey, you know, I kind of can't answer that, but we're getting close to finalizing the, you know, the schedule, and a lot of the games were already done. So I wouldn't anticipate any huge news on that front. And I don't know if that answers it for you, Trey.
No, that's fine. And then also, how much will you pay attention, and will you talk to some guys within the NBA about how they handle things as they kind of restart and have a game day and stuff, to where you might be able to utilize something in your preparation for games coming up dealing with this pandemic?
Well, even right now, Trey, I mean, I've been you know, there's certain organizations or certain people in the NBA that I talk to all the time. So, you know, the Clippers being maybe the Clippers and the Bucks being the two organizations that I talk to the most. Some, you know, couple of guys with LA. I mean, I'm talking to daily. One of them's a former assistant of mine. One guy played for me that's with the Clippers, and obviously I work with Coach Rivers. So, I mean, I'm constantly asking them, you know, even as early as this morning, you know, just how their workouts have been conducted and what they're learning. And certainly once games start taking place, you know, then we'll really have to try to figure out what worked well and maybe what some of the challenging things were. Thanks, Trey.
All right, Bob.
Okay, did I unmute there?
You're good.
Okay, cool. Hey, Eric, I think, you know, originally the draft withdrawal was going to be like June 3rd, so it's 2 months later. I mean, just how tough is it? Well, waiting on Isaiah. I mean, not that you're pressuring him, but just how tough from a coaching standpoint is that, having to wait till August to know whether or not you might have, you know, who probably be presumed your best player?
Yeah, I mean, I can just tell you, Bob, even, you know, let's just, you know, go backwards a little bit and look in the rear view mirror. It was challenging at Nevada with the original date. Really challenging when you try to put together a roster. And so I think that when you go through those situations, you know, you grow as a coach, you grow in your approach, which is why right now we have two different scenarios. We want what's best for our players. We want to get on that phone and try to promote Mason and try to promote Isaiah as much as we possibly can. And so we're not waiting. You know, we are going about our business. We're trying to help those two guys reach their dream. You know, and then whenever the decision's made either way, either to come back or to continue to pursue that, you know, then your team takes on a different look. And so, you know, I didn't make the rules. Isaiah didn't make the rules. The NBA made the rules and the NCAA on what that date is. And so somebody gives you a rule, you just kind of roll with it and you make the best of it. But it's certainly challenging. But I think with our players, I mean, I haven't done anything with them. So, you know, they're not missing any scheme stuff with me or really with their teammates. So, you know, you just take it day by day and you try to support Isaiah as much as you can.
I assume Isaiah's doing all the regular stuff all the other players are doing, and just how much interaction do you have with him? And do you guys talk about the draft process, or that kind of been exhausted at this point?
Yeah, I think it's been exhausted. You know, I don't know much more we can do. We put together a pretty extensive book when the process was kind of beginning, and we gave some of our feedback, and we continue, you know, to give feedback. Hayes Myers keeps a running tab of the interviews, and then I'll follow up, or someone on staff will follow up and get feedback, and you know, from those NBA teams and from those interviews, and then you know, whatever information we can share with Isaiah and with his father Derek, we do that, and that's just kind of how the process goes.
Is he pretty much going on about business as usual with you guys? I mean, with the workouts and things?
Yeah, I mean, he was in here today, and you know, he missed a couple of ours, you know, Zooms that we might have had based on, you know, conflicts with, you know, with his NBA interview Zooms. But, you know, as always, he's been a great teammate to all the guys that are you know, that are with us.
I had a couple more questions. Do you want me to just keep firing, Kyle, or do you want to?
Yeah, just go ahead, Bob.
Okay. I hadn't thought about this, but, you know, obviously you faced Vance Jackson, you faced Justin Smith, you played Tate's team. Is that a coincidence, or is that maybe a pattern that guys you face, maybe you know a little bit more about them, and those are, you know, to the extent you want to add them to your team if possible?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Bob. I think that really familiar with those guys. And so when someone goes in the portal and you've already game planned for them and you've seen them live, obviously we didn't see Jalen Tate live, although he did travel here, but all the way up until tip-off, we had prepared as if he was going to probably play. Just as we do with any player on an opposing team that's injured, we always err on the side of that player playing. So yeah, I did not have to personally, when Justin Smith got in the portal or Vance or Jalen Tate, I did not have to spend hours watching game tape. Those hours had already been done. I had a vision of how those guys could fit in. I had a strong feeling of characteristics that they would bring to our team. And when that transfer portal, names are coming like every 2 minutes. And then sometimes there's, 20 names in one section of time that come. And so you just can't watch all of them. And so certainly those three guys in particular, we had a really good feel for them as players.
And then right now you've got three guys back who have played for you here. It's kind of interesting. You've got 10 newcomers, but 6 of them have played college ball. 3 of them are going to be seniors. Just kind of what do you think of that mix? It's 10 newcomers, but it's not like, 6 of them have already played, big-time college ball.
Yeah, like the newcomer part, and it happened for 4 straight years at Nevada. It's really not that big a deal to me because, when you're coaching in the D-League, you have 10 new players almost every other day. Guys are getting called up. Guys are getting sent down. So that roster flexibility bothers me zero. It's the same thing. You coach in the NBA. There might be a trade, and you might have 4 guys going out in a trade and 5 guys coming in. So I'm not really worried about having a lot of new faces. What I am concerned about is just the missed time that we've had. That is a concern with new faces. But I do like our blend. I like the fact that we have, 4 freshmen, but we do have, as you mentioned, 3 grad transfers. We have guys like Desi that now have enough experience in the SEC that they should feel really comfortable playing in big games, whether it be home or road games. And then the guys that sat out, when you play in the Pac-12 like Connor did, big games in the SEC are not going to bother Connor. He's played as a freshman in a really good conference in some really hard venues. So I like our mix of youth as well as experience.
And then I guess it's been about a year and a month since Connor got on campus from Cal. What do you thought about the last year for him? Just how he's fit in, the development year, what you saw in practice, all those things.
I think anytime you get asked that question, you automatically start going into the sport specific. And, if it's basketball, you're talking about his jump shot, his rebounding. The one thing that really sticks out with me about Connor is how he's grown as a man. Like when I talk to him, he's not shy anymore. He talks with great confidence. He walks with confidence. It's been really cool to see him kind of change and become much, much more confident than maybe what he was a year ago. And I think that you'll see that, on the floor as well. I think he's much more confident player. He's probably in all the years I've been coaching, if you just took a year time frame with somebody, I don't think I've ever seen someone change verbally on the floor, become such a more talkative player and a better communicator than what we've seen from Connor over the last 13 months.
I just had a couple more short ones. Hey, follow up on David Patrick. So you're doing TV work or radio work for Fox. You take your kids in to shoot around, and that's how you met Dave, and you guys just kind of hit it off. Have I got that right?
Yeah, I lost you for a second, I think. Yeah, you're asking if that's how I met him?
Yeah, like you were doing games in the area, working for Fox. You took your kids in to shoot around. David's there because and that's how you guys met, and just you kind of hit it off.
Yeah, we were, a lot of dinners. I mean, you know, Randy Bennett, I've known for a long time, was the head coach at St. Mary's, and we've been, you know, very good friends for a long time. And yeah, so I just got to sit around and watch practice and watch Coach Patrick and Coach Bennett and struck up a friendship.
And I think I heard this, I think on a podcast, but you were talking about your social media, and you talked about how your dad, when he was coaching in Minnesota, used to keep a bunch of Minnesota T-shirts in the trunk of his car. And I guess social media or marketing back in the 70s was open up your trunk and hand out T-shirts. Kind of what you learned from that, or I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit more.
I mean, if I could get a sponsor to give me a couple hundred T-shirts, I'd stick them in my trunk now and pass them out still to this day. You know, my dad used to say walking billboards, because it's pretty embarrassing when you walk into a, you know, fast food restaurant and you go in and you want to just grab a milkshake or something real quick, and your dad follows you in to pay the bill, and he's got, you know, 25 Golden Gopher T-shirts, and he starts passing them around in the restaurant. That's an embarrassment for, you know, a teenager. So, but my dad thought that was a way to promote. And, you know, he was ahead of his time. I mean, you know, just the amount of time even that he spent with the band and, you know, the number of dance team members that they had and the pregame warm-up that they did. I mean, promotion was just a part of who he was.
And I'm talking to Clay, he said you guys coaching together in the minor leagues, you learned about promotion too, that, you know, trying to get people in the stands, obviously. Do you think that's helped you?
I don't think there's any doubt. You know, if you're coaching in the old CBA or the USBL, you have to try, you know, just like minor league baseball. I think that there's so many incredible, you know, ideas that come from minor league baseball and what they do. And I think that, you know, all of us, you know, sometimes you think, well, you know, you just put together a game, and it's, you know, you got to create an atmosphere where it's more than just the game, where it's a place to be, where there's things going on during timeouts and half times. And, you know, what the NBA did, what David Stern did, and what Adam Silver, like, that's why basketball games are so fun to go to. It's more than a game. You know, and I think, you know, more so than maybe any sport, the NBA is, you know, done an incredible job of promoting not just their sport, but promoting their players as stars and what they do. You know, you go to a Golden State Warrior game. I mean, the game is secondary to all the stuff that's going on from an entertainment standpoint.
Yeah, your hair looks nice. Is Patrick still cutting your hair, or what's going on there?
No, I can get back to a true barber, but Pat Eckerman did an incredible job for 2.5 months cutting my hair. I would say if anybody needs a free haircut, come up to our office and Coach Ackerman can get you right.
He said that he didn't want to cut your hair because you're the head coach, and what if he screws it up? But you kind of just kept nagging him to do it. I mean, you didn't have any.
It's pretty hard to screw up my hair. I mean, so I don't brush it or anything. So Pat, I told him, relax, as long as you don't, you know, take a divot out of it, I'd be all right.
Yeah, kind of a serious one. Watching Eddie, you're obviously from a basketball family. The part where Sean, you know, was so raw, talking about his dad's issues, you know, as well as his high points. How did that hit you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if I talked about my dad at length, I'd get pretty emotional too, just because, I mean, I think anytime you have a loved one no longer living, you know, the more in depth you go into conversations about somebody that you've really loved and you've idolized and it's been your best friend, it can get emotional. So, you know, certainly listening to all of Coach Sutton's, you know, 3 sons talk, I mean, I can relate to all of them. And, you know, I'm sure that my son can as well.
But I guess the fact that Eddie had drinking problems, and Sean, I think Sean actually did that interview before his dad passed away, but the fact he was so raw and so honest. I mean, just wonder how that struck you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why the show was so good. I think anytime you can show vulnerability and you know, if he would have not showed emotion, you know, it takes the rawness and the realness out of it.
All right, Bob. The transition from haircuts to the Eddie Sutton rawness, that's going to end your time. All right. Any more questions from us? Give me a wave if you've got one. We've been on here for 45 minutes. So, all right. Appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for your time and your patience. We'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Bob, come and get a haircut from Pat.